Hi, I'm Alec. This is Trev. Did I point the right way? Who knows? Welcome to episode 8 of Beanscast. Before we get started, if you want to join in the discussion, you can follow us on Twitter at BeanscastPod, or you can join the Discord, link in the description. We want to start the conversation by talking about what we're drinking today. So, Trev, what are you drinking today?
Alec, you did point the right way. I want to be very clear about that. I'm proud of you. Good job.
It's a victory. That's a
It's a
victory for
victory.
all.
Today, let me move my monitor real quick. Today I am drinking I would call it my usual at this point. It's an iced espresso. I made a vodka drink yesterday. I never do vodka, but I made a vodka drink yesterday, and I was gonna make one of those today. But you said you were doing coffee, and I was like, okay, well, if Alec is doing coffee, I can't be ostracized by the group for not doing coffee. So coffee. Cheers.
I mean,
What are you drinking?
I am drinking a little bit of blended iced coffee situation.
Don't lie
Mocha.
to me.
What? That's what
That's
I'm drinking.
that's horchata.
No, this is ice and instant coffee and
Oh,
mocha syrup that I made,
oh,
and milk and a little
okay.
bit of xanthan gum, so it doesn't separate as it
Mm,
melts.
mm, mm. You had me up until the xanthan gum. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, you don't have to do the xanthan gum. It's just so it
Yeah,
doesn't separate as it melts.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. That
Okay,
just sounds
okay.
what's the word? Yeah,
Gross.
I like how Eric said this McDonald's ass coffee. That's exactly what it sounds like. It
It
sounds like
is
a
not
McDonald's
McDonald's
ass
as
coffee.
coffee.
It's
It's not.
literally exactly what it sounds
It's
like. Is
not.
a
It's
McDonald's
way
ass
better.
coffee.
Just because it's instant doesn't mean it's bad. There's good instant coffee out there. That's a thing.
That's
There
true.
is.
But the instant isn't what threw me. It's the xanthan gum.
Yeah, but
Because I
that's
think
just their.
Vietnamese coffee is traditionally made with instant coffee, and Vietnamese coffee is delicious.
No,
So,
Vietnamese coffee is not usually.
am I?
It's usually made with
Is it condensed milk? Is that what I'm thinking? Is that the
condensed milk.
powder?
Yeah.
That's the
Hmm.
powder. It's not the coffee.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
My
okay.
buddy always made it for me. But it's delicious. I love that shit.
Hmm.
But I agree, there can be good instant coffee. Have you seen? Do you know who Peter McKinnon is? He's a
No.
YouTuber. He
Mm.
is a YouTuber. He's a photographer, but he does a lot of coffee content. And he just put out this fucking short. It's like a can of chew, but instead of tobacco, it's like little coffee pellets that you just fucking put in your like you would chew. Isn't that crazy?
Weird. Where
Super weird.
oh, I see. I'm
Yeah,
looking at this.
yeah. And
Oh,
it's literally
okay.
chew, but coffee. It's
Is it like
caffeine.
concentrated?
Yeah, yeah. There's like 10
Oh, it's in a
grams of
pouch and
it's
everything.
yeah, it's like in a little pouch. Yeah, it's like
That's
10
disgusting.
milligrams of caffeine or whatever, and that has like a little flip top lid on the top where you can put your spent ones.
This Did he
Yeah,
spit just because it's
coffee.
like
Yeah,
to, or did he spit because you have
yeah.
to spit?
No, okay. He spit because he was saying, if you had listened to the video, he says it literally turns your saliva into coffee. Look, and he spits.
Okay, so you don't have to spit like you have to spit with chewing
You
tobacco.
do not. You're actually supposed to swallow it to get the
Okay,
caffeine.
okay.
But
Because
then you're supposed to take that out. Yeah, you're not supposed to spit.
watching that without
Yes,
audio,
disturbing. Wouldn't have
vile,
recommended. Vile.
disgusting. Would not recommend. Uh,
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was an
So,
experience. Thank
hey,
you.
there's all sorts of ways to enjoy coffee, man. Hey, we don't have to be so limited in our applications.
That's true.
All right, Alec, we
I
got a
will
lot to
not
go
be
over today.
enjoying it that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
I
it.
won't either. Let's dive right in. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start
Oh
on
my
how
goodness.
representative is America?
Yeah, let's start.
Let's let's start with that. Let
How?
me pull up a tab. I think this is great. Was this suggested by somebody or did you pull
I
this
think
yourself?
you sent me this.
Yeah, I think youth suggested this, right? Okay, let me
Yeah.
go to the media share. Perfect. So you should be able to see that too,
So,
right? It worked.
yeah.
Perfect.
So
Hard
right
agree.
here we just got
First of all,
a
with the first
population
talking
map.
point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um. That. Oh my gosh! I need to make this bigger. This is my fault. I pulled it up too, so I could read things. That just shows like the population density essentially
Mm-hmm.
by comparison. So the red is the same as the orange in each one of these maps.
Mm-hmm.
And so like how much land you have to cover to be equal to the two coasts,
Mm-hmm.
to be equal to Los Angeles County down in the corner. That's
Mm-hmm.
insane.
Well,
That's crazy.
and the what this represents so well is how disproportionate voting power is in
Yeah.
non-coastal states.
So here's the thing. We live we don't live in a true democracy. We
At
live
all.
in a republic. Um, we have a representative democracy. We elect the people who vote on things to make laws for us.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying on paper.
Right,
Before we
yes.
get into like all of the ways that voting is
Rigged.
restricted.
Yeah.
So by virtue of that, and then on top of that, the United States should function more, theoretically functions more like the EU for European countries than it does, because all of our states have their own government.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a collection of those governments that makes up, that oversees, or that is overseen by the federal government. So theoretically, the idea of having one house, the house being based on population, and the Senate being based on each state just gets two, no matter what the population is good
insane.
on paper. It's
Sure.
good on paper because you don't
Checks and
want
balances.
California to necessarily make the laws for the whole country. I mean, I'm not saying that I agree with that, but that's the logic. The one problem is that, or the two problems, is it shouldn't be that way for the president. The president should be elected purely based on popular vote. And then, two, the house that has more power probably shouldn't be the one that is less representative of the actual population.
Yep.
So, like, the Senate has more power than the House of Representatives.
Well, I mean, this kind of gets into civics, right? Does it?
Yeah.
Because because Senate can't make laws.
The Senate can't make laws,
pass
but
laws.
The Senate is who makes the laws happen.
No, and this is why checks and balances theoretically is a good thing.
Works.
Right. So I had to swap us because we were looking the opposite direction of each other, and now we're looking the same way, or the right way.
That's fine. Yeah. But either way, we clearly have a party in our two-party system that has figured out how to abuse all these things.
Right.
And a party who doesn't care to fix that.
Right. Because they would rather fundraise off of the downright illegality of it rather than actually do something to prevent the illegalities. Like gerrymandering, right? I mean, like, gerrymandering is allowed to happen. Everybody knows it's happening. Rather than trying to make gerrymandering illegal or more illegal or prevent what's been done, they're like, you just got to give us more money so we can help fight the gerrymandering.
Give me $20 in the next 20 minutes so I can help get rid of this.
100%. And it's bullshit. I was just talking to my parents about this, who are both almost 70 years old. And so they are of a generation of people who got us into this fucking problem and are making the problem worse. And my mom always talks about how she's like, I was so hopeful as a youth. We were going to be the generation that changed things. And look how bad it is. And I'm like, I know. And part of the problem is that when I say, like, Joe Biden fucking sucks, my mom, like, gets offended. She, like, takes that shit personally. And it's like, no, he fucking sucks.
But he does. And, like, not in the ways that probably more, like, older, more established Democratic people see him,
Right.
or would think by you saying that, but it's like inaction. That's why he fucking sucks.
I mean,
Making campaign promises that he
said he was going to
cannot
codify Roe v.
deliver
Wade.
on.
He literally said that.
It's not something the president can do. It was a bad campaign promise because it's not something he could do.
But what it all it does, I mean, it helped him get elected, certainly, but then it sets him up for criticism.
Exactly.
Like it's saying.
It's the most idiotic. So I retweeted that as like, how's this going, or something like, or like, how's it going the other day, and I got someone who was like, well, he can't do that, and I'm like, that's my point.
Right. So why did he run on that promise?
Exactly. Like, was this his fault directly? No. But did he promise to codify Roe, and now Roe is gone?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Like, don't make a campaign promise that you can't deliver on. And if you're going to sit there and you're going to say, I can help, then you need to tell people what else they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, we need 60 Democrats and then in the Senate, and then I will codify Roe.
I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because that's part of my frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Obama had that, and he also said he was going to codify Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And he also chose not to. Once he got into the office, he started saying things like there are other things that are more important. And like, hey, I understand that. But also, look at what's happening now as a direct consequence of this. Because you didn't take the action when you had the opportunity. The other party jumped on that.
He chose to spend his political capital somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And we got a...
shitty healthcare.
Yes. Hey, not great healthcare.
Shitty healthcare is what we got.
And which is not the bill he wanted, but it's what he got.
But see, this is exactly
what he spent all his political capital on, and then he. I know.
Here's the thing.
Political capital is stupid.
Whose fault was the healthcare bill? Because there's one guy, right? Everyone knows. Everyone knows it's Joe Lieberman, right? Because Joe Lieberman wasn't going to vote for like nationalized healthcare, whatever the fuck. Except there's always, conveniently, one of these fucking Democrats who refuses. Now it's Joe Manchin. If it wasn't Joe Manchin, it would be Sinema. It's like there's always fucking one of these assholes that is there to just obfuscate and fucking, well, what happened to compromise? And I want to be a centrist and blah, blah, blah. Inaction is choosing a side. Mm-hmm. You know, when it's shit like this. And I'm so fucking sick of it. And I think Eric brings up, if you're over 65, you shouldn't be able to run for president. If there's a minimum, why isn't there a maximum?
That's fair. It is fair.
You know?
I mean, how representative are you of your country?
Right.
And then, there's the whole thing of like, well, they need experience. It's like, well, do they? How much experience do they need? Yes, I would like someone that knows what the job entails, and knows a little bit how to navigate the job. Yeah. But I don't need a career politician.
Age doesn't equal experience. That's not the same thing, right? Because like Donald Trump ran and was elected on having no experience. That was like the draw.
Like, who is the most effective current congressperson in the House of Representatives at working up a base?
You're looking for AOC. You're looking for AOC, 100%. And I don't disagree with you. But right, she legally cannot run for president yet.
But no, I'm just saying. And she has only been on the job.
Oh yeah,
for a
100%.
Very short time.
100%.
Like, that was my point. Is that you don't necessarily have to be a career politician to be able to do this job.
And she's not from a political family.
No.
Which is like, it's so weird because fucking the concept of like political families in America are so disgusting. Like, people want to like, oh, the founding fathers, this and that. The founding fathers would be absolutely flabbergasted at the idea of political families, because that is royalty. And that's what we literally fought a fucking war over.
Yeah, we have an oligarchy, which is not what they wanted.
Right?
But like we can sit here and talk about Russian oligarchs all we want. Russian oligarchs have less power than U.S. oligarchs.
Yeah, oligarch is just a scarier word. It's just branding. It's literally branding. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there was George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., and Jeb Bush is like already way too far. And then you get into
Kennedys.
the Kennedys. It's fucking insane, dude. It's fucking insane. Like, and then you start to look
at political dynasties.
No, and that's the thing, is because it's like when it's the Bushes, it's easy to trace. But then there's like, oh, so and so's nephew is, the cousin of the uncle of, and it's like it branches out into this
Arnold
weird,
Schwarzenegger
gross.
Was married to a Kennedy.
See how gross that is? That's fucking gross.
When he was the governor of California, he was married to a Kennedy.
That's gross, dude. Born into politics, same as born into royalty. Exactly, Mega Man. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing.
It's the same.
It's gross.
It's the same thing.
It's gross. I like Eric said, elect me. I just need y'all to Venmo me $100 each to start the campaign. Yeah, if everyone just sends Eric $100, that'll be $100 that he has from himself. And that'll be a good start. But it's true, because you need to be, a multimillionaire, obviously, to run for, and even then, that's actually not true. But you need to get the backing of multimillionaires, and that's just, it's just so gross. It's such a gross cycle.
And then they're gonna want stuff from you because they're investing in you. They're not just giving you money because they believe in you. They're giving you money because they want a return on their investment.
Right? Like, I mean, hey man,
they want you to do things for them.
I'm a big fan of Barack Obama, but like this man also was bought and paid for by the stock market.
Yeah. Also,
like that's just the reality.
Also, he loved drone strikes. Loved them.
He loved them. Big fan. Never been a bigger fan.
Drone strikes. Like, it's one of those things where you're
and
like,
deporting immigrants. He loved
but
deporting
I would
immigrants
hope it would
too.
be less drone strikes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And on civilians. Because that's what happens when you use drone strikes, is that they often hit civilians.
Yeah. It's less casualties on our side, but a lot more war crime on the other side.
It's so funny because the historical remembrance is like, oh, Obama's biggest, what's the word? Political scandal was that he wore a tan suit or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's because politicians are all okay with the mass murder and the war crimes part of it. That's normal. That's accepted. And so the controversy becomes the tan suit that he wore. That's great. Love to see it. Love to see it. Hate everything. Hate everything. We've already gone off the rails.
We have covered one topic. And kind of barely.
Yep.
But yeah, so the idea
on to the next
of
one.
the representation in America is that it's currently broken.
100% broken.
It's broken.
And that's without even getting into, like racial dynamics in representation. That's strictly getting into logistics and which it goes hand in hand with the racial dynamics, right? Because a lot of those states are gerrymandered in a way. Well, it's certainly white dominated overall, but also then gerrymandered in a way where you get less representation, even if you somehow have close to a majority. It's just all fucking terrible. It's fucking terrible.
It's all terrible. So now here we have, I can't even with this. Judd Apatow, Mark Ruffalo, Jimmy Kimmel, Adam McKay, Julianne Moore, and Shonda Rhimes are among the first round of signatures for a petition calling for the film and TV industry to re-examine its influence on national gun violence in the U.S. And the person who retweeted this that we pulled this from, rightly so, the only thing this will accomplish is drawing attention away from the evidence-based solutions and give oxygen to a counterproductive GOP talking point. Ridiculous, counterproductive, performative garbage. So...
Yes. It's also... Isn't this egotistical as fuck?
Yes.
To be like, oh no, we do have an impact. We do. Yeah. We do.
Yeah. Well, and like studies on this have shown that like
numerous times, over and over again,
inconclusive on whether it's not like a flat out yes or no, but they're inconclusive on whether it at all does anything led to your brain at all to be exposed to that much violence in media. But they're definitely not saying that it's going to go make you a psychopath.
Right.
Like
Okay,
one of my
being
earliest movie memories
desensitized.
is
Good.
watching shit, what's the name of that movie? Samuel L. Jackson, which is
Deep Blue Sea.
no, no. It was like the worst person to pull from that movie. Gina Davis, whatever. She's like a spy, and she shoots someone in the head. And I remember watching it as like a 6-year-old. She's like
Damn.
coming out of the water and just shooting someone in the head. A terrifying scene. But like, this is not the reason. And even if it was, a solution would be limiting access to the guns.
100%. The Long Kiss Goodnight?
Long Kiss Goodnight. That's what I was thinking of. Thank you. It's a great movie.
Right.
Everyone should watch it.
Right. The hypocrisy of, without getting too much into it, because we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but the hypocrisy of like, oh, banning abortions will prevent abortions, but banning guns won't prevent gun violence.
Oh my god.
Is like over the top fucking insane. Because, right, even if this was true, you know what the solution is? Make guns harder to get. That's still the fucking solution. Because, like, again, America does not exist in a vacuum.
No.
We are not the only country that has this amount of violence in our media. Absolutely or video not. Games. I mean, it's very common in this day and age. So I can't help but come back to the solution is not changed. I mean, you could say, sure, this could be a contributing factor, but the solution is make access to guns harder. That's the solution. It's that simple. The ego of this is insane. To be like,
pop dramas are still a thing in the UK.
Yep.
I mean, anime is gory as shit at times.
Yep.
And Japan doesn't have a huge problem with mass shootings every day.
Literally.
Every day.
Literally. And even then, I mean, I think that there's an argument, a more critical argument that could be made about being desensitized towards violence.
Yeah.
I think that that's different, though, than wanting to commit violence.
Yeah, than it making you more homicidal.
Those are not the same thing. I don't know why it's kind of being discussed as if those are the same thing.
Not at all. But yeah, I mean, there probably is an argument to like it could affect you less. But I don't know. I've watched a lot of horribly violent movies and played a lot of violent video games in my time, and I am still utterly destroyed by children getting murdered. So
that's why they need to release the photos. Truly, I truly believe that at this point. They need to release the photos of the kids.
The problem is I just don't think it'll do anything.
I think it will, because I don't think people... I mean, just because I genuinely don't think people understand what
the, like, detachment of it.
Weapon of war does to a body like this. Because, like, parents... Literally, I mean, parents and coroners were both saying on the record they could only identify the kids from their clothes. Bodies were so destroyed that they could not identify their own kids. People need to understand, because they're removed, and like, talk about desensitized. When you're playing Grand Theft Auto and you're using an AR-15, that it's, you know, you're so far removed from the reality of that and what that actually is happening in real life. Show the pictures, man. Show the bodies. I think that's gonna. I mean, will it do anything? I don't know. Maybe not. But at this point, it's not gonna hurt. I don't know what else to do. I don't, because like, think about like cigarettes.
I just feel, oh yeah, like the like, here's pictures of what it does to your lungs.
100%.
I mean, it shows that if we focus on something, because like cigarettes being everywhere is like less than a generation ago.
100%. We can't change, you know, it's just impossible. Okay, cigarettes were literally everywhere.
Like,
everywhere.
Camel still had the like cool Camel guy.
Right. We grew up with that. We grew up with Joe Camel.
With Joe Camel. Like, so which is honestly the thing that infuriates me most about the gun debate
Mm-hmm.
is that if Democrats really attacked it full force,
Wouldn't be hard.
it it would it would be done.
Yep. And we go back
If
to
they
that
weren't
map.
afraid of Republicans being like, you're playing politics with the tragedy. It's like, of course we're playing politics with the tragedy. Access to guns is politics.
Which is crazy
Laws
because
are politics.
trans people existing, not politics.
Politics.
Access to guns, politics.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of those is actually politics.
Yeah.
But it goes back to that first point too, because actually most of America agrees about common sense gun control, and most of America agrees on what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But because a minority gets to decide what happens for the majority, this is the result.
Mm-hmm. Hey, remember how we were talking about representative democracy?
Right, exactly.
And,
that's the
and how the whole point of it was to not have a majority or a minority that takes over.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Everything's terrible. Speaking of how trans and gay people just existing is actually not political at all.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ready to transition to this next one? I think we want to probably watch the whole video, right?
Yeah, we should watch this as much as it's a rough one.
Yeah. Let me bring up the volume here. So I love it too because it's always a pastor. They're always pastors. Yeah. Always these takes always come from the worst people.
LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat because it is ultimately designed to destabilize the republic we call the United States of America. That's why when I'm elected, I don't want to just vote. I want to start holding people accountable for treason to the Constitution. I am going to push to reenact HUAC. HUAC is the House of Un-American Activities Committee. It was a real committee that was formulated back in the 50s, and it's a committee that we should reenact that starts holding these people accountable for treason. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people who are found guilty for their treasonous acts against the Constitution of the United States of America, just like they did back in 1776.
You know what, South Carolina? This is our guy.
The LG.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Christ. So he is quite literally calling for the execution of gays under the guise of grooming.
Mm-hmm. And citing McCarthyism.
That
unironically.
That's the irony is just lost on these people so fucking hard.
Unironically citing McCarthyism, which I mean, I guess it's not irony really at all because it's what McCarthyism was about too.
It wasn't specifically about killing gays; it was just political opponents.
But it was political opponents, and it was outing them. And a lot of times, it was outing them for being
right
homosexual.
Yeah.
Working for the government was like a huge lesbian job in the 40s.
What do you mean in the 40s? You mean in the 2020s? Oh, I don't know.
But do you have something to tell us, Trev?
I'm a lesbian.
But
I don't even work for the government.
Yeah, you don't, but that's okay. But yeah, it was like a huge job, and then McCarthyism,
Yeah.
ferreted out all these people. But it's just like, why are we letting this? First of all, like, I don't care what way your network leans, but what was that? What was the banner on that?
Pastor
who was
Mark
broadcasting
Burns?
this? No, who's broadcasting it?
I think it's like AON or some shit.
Okay.
OAN, One American News or some shit like that.
Which makes sense. They would give this person a speaker, but like,
yeah, it's some
be,
shit like that. Yeah.
Like, it's irresponsible. It's irresponsible to broadcast anyone calling for death of other Americans.
And what's crazy, and again, it's just like, for me, what always kills me about these situations, I mean, outside of like the insanity of on its face killing somebody for something outside of their own control, like that's insane. It's just it's not a far reach to then go from, okay, well, we should start doing this to immigrants too, and we should start doing this to non-Christians, to start using your political beliefs to dictate, or your religious beliefs to dictate policy. Like, this is real scary shit. This is how this shit starts. With the, I don't know, like, if you remember the first they came for, or what's the poem? I forget what it's called, but there's like a famous World War II poem about how first they came for, like, you know, the centrists, and I didn't stand up because I wasn't a centrist, yada yada. And it ends with, then they came for me and nobody was left to stand up for me. And that's like, that's what we're working towards here, man. When you're starting to dehumanize and make one group less than thou, I mean, this is what we're working for. And also, like, the hypocrisy of, like, would you want to hold Trump accountable for this treason that you're talking about? Any of the January 6th rioters? Like, is that the same? What do you, when you say treason, because being gay is not against the Constitution. Let's start there. When you talk about treason, what does treason mean to you? Like, that's just, it's the hypocrisy. It's so insane to me.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And, like, the fact that this person is still being allowed to run for political office.
Yeah, and again, a pastor, you know, very religious individual. So a religious leader. It's just tough, man. It's just because and maybe it's just because I'm too much of a sheep that I also, were a religious person. Maybe you can clear this up for me. Sheeps are the good ones, right? From a religious standpoint, I mean, sheep are actually the good ones.
Yeah. I mean,
Jesus herded the sheep.
Tending
right?
to his flock type of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's funny that you bring that up, because I come at this, I've watched this a few times now, which is, like, not something that I should have put myself through. But I've watched it a few times.
That's a doom
spiral.
And
I come at it from multiple angles, because it's like, okay, I'm gay. He's calling to murder me because I'm gay.
No, because you're grooming, Alec.
I grew up really religious. Like really religious. And so I'm sitting here thinking, this man's a pastor? This man is a religious leader?
Yep.
And he's calling for death?
Public. I thought he was going to say public executions. And he said public trials. I thought public executions was coming next.
But the penalty for treason
is death.
Is death.
Yes.
And I don't think that someone who knows the things that he cited doesn't know that.
He said death. He literally said it.
Yeah. So, like,
he said they need to be held accountable and killed.
So from the background of a religion, I'm like, how do you go to church where this man's leading worship?
How do you listen to this man talk about Jesus?
Yeah. How do you sit there?
Jesus would hate this guy.
Yeah, God's love courses through this man. Like, no.
No, because that would be gay, Alec, if God's love was coursing through him, okay?
It's an actual thing that is said.
No, but that's what I, like, because that's the level of instability here that we're dealing with. That's how far removed from actual Christianity these people are, too.
Oh, yeah. It is American Jesus.
American Jesus. I actually put American Jesus into that DALL-E AI thing, and the results were devastating. I was like, I refuse to take a screenshot of this. I refuse.
So yeah, I mean, like, that's the position that these things, whenever there is some kind of religious leader or someone coming at politics from a religious angle, like, I feel like it's like the benefit and the curse of, because of my upbringing, I understand where they're coming from.
Right.
Like, I know. I took an abstinence pledge. Like, I still doing good on that one. Sort of. Like, I, for a long time, believed
hilarious.
that, like,
Jesus was a real
you know,
person.
that abortion is murder.
Yeah.
Like, these are things that I understand,
Right.
I believed. And so you can kind of sit there and think, like, well, okay, what are they reading in the Bible? What are religious leaders telling them that they're in this position?
Mm-hmm.
But then I have the life I have now, and it's like, okay, but you're fucking crazy.
You're insane. You're
Everyone
actually
here is
insane.
a person. Like, these are
Mhm.
actual people that you can see, that you can talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and find out about their experience. And you should be making your belief should be based around that too.
Thrillhouse says keeping the pledge on a technicality. W.
Like, it's just,
That's hilarious. No, it's all insane. It's all insane. And he's, again, because he's doing this under the guise, excuse me, of gays or groomers.
yeah. Which also, one of the main religious backgrounds I have is Catholicism.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about groomers.
Let's talk about Let's talk about some real nasty shit.
No, they don't want to.
Like,
They don't want to do that.
just insane.
Mm-hmm.
Insane. Like, the call is coming from inside the house, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with that.
It's just wild that these people are consistently, and I'm on a very general level here talking about Republicans, because it does seem to be most of the elected Republican officials are 100% guilty of everything they say the Democrats are doing. Like, if there is a cult of people drinking baby's blood, they are going to be Republicans, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Like,
that's
if that-
actually going to be a thing.
If that was a headline tomorrow,
Right.
if it was like Mitch McConnell bathes
Right.
in the blood of babies, I'd be
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, check it
Yeah.
out.
Well, because remember
Checks
when they raided that, like, apartment in New York or something and found all those fetuses, and she was like some super anti-abortion fucking right-wing nut?
I have not heard about this. And
Oh,
I'm-
yeah. So that's just a thing that happened. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
That's
okay.
cool.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Don't like that.
Yeah.
Don't like
no.
that at all.
And it's just, this is going back to some of those super old, really troubling stereotypes that have been used against the gay community for decades.
Oh, yeah.
Gays are perverts, they're pedophiles, and it's
Mhm.
just so fucking frustrating to actively, having, lived through that. I mean, you obviously as a gay man lived through that in a much more real experience than me, but like being aware of that and then feeling like you've moved past that and then being brought back to that is fucking insane.
It is like, really, it's very bizarre, because it's like we had like 10 years of like, this is okay now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, we're not equal yet,
Right.
but we're not like fifth class citizens.
Yeah, you're like the Irish after they helped with some stuff, Yeah.
Exactly.
You're working your way up,
We're
because that is
working
how
our
it
way
works in America. That is how it works.
But then it's like
terrible.
someone, cut the rope. Like,
Yeah.
it's been on a steady decline for a while, because
Yeah.
like the attacks on the trans community
Right.
are attacks on the gay community. Like,
Yep.
and any lesbian, gay, or bisexual person who doesn't think that is wrong.
And it actually actively makes it so much worse, because it's like when a black person is a Republican. It's worse because then they're like, oh, because see, he gets it. That's my guy. I got black friends, so it's okay. I can't be racist.
But I mean,
It justifies these people's feelings. When somebody in the LGBT community is anti-trans, it allows them to feel justified in their feelings. It's the same kind of thing. And it's so damaging. And it's like you said, the rights are like for the same fucking people here, man. Like, how do you not see this is actively going to hurt you?
yeah, they're going after the perceived weakest, the perceived easiest to attack first.
Mm-hmm.
So,
have you seen too the talking point that they'll use that we need to make this not normalized because trans kids are at such a high risk of self-harm?
yeah.
Have you seen that talking point?
Wait,
but it's because
I have not.
Yeah,
but it's you.
Yes.
Once
you
again,
are the
call is
self-harm
coming from inside the house.
It's unbelievable. The audacity to use self-harm, trans self-harm rates as a reason why we need to get rid of trans people is unbelievable.
Don't let the kid be themselves.
No,
then they might cut themselves.
Yeah, that's self-harm. You can't have that. Actually unbelievable.
That's what somebody who is happy and sure of themselves does.
Mm-hmm. And is like, made to feel self-assured in themselves. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Fox News just ran a story about that. We saw it.
Yes. Oh
Jesus Christ. I still can't believe that.
Still a just giant mindfuck.
But hey, man, we're for it. We're for it.
Oh, we're bringing up our good old friend Lauren.
Bobert? Lobo?
Yeah.
Lobobs?
Lobo. Oh no. Okay.
All right, you want to should we play the clip?
We should play the clip.
Okay, let's play the clip. I think this is hilarious because I felt like she was waiting for a laugh that never came. Oh, let me get the audio up a little bit here. Oh, what's going on? All right, audio. And let's hit the play button here.
On Twitter, a lot of the little Twitter trolls, they like to say, oh, Jesus didn't need an AR-15. How many AR-15s do you think Jesus would have had? Well, he didn't have enough to keep his government from killing him. So...
She really thought she was going to get a big laugh there.
She was like, this is it.
Not enough guns to not be killed, owned libs.
Oh.
That's just the insanity. Also, like, the idea that Jesus would use a gun is insane. Like, on every level, this is actually insane.
Like, what is one of the biggest things that people quote from Jesus? That it's about not
turning the other cheek?
People?
Like, and it's also like I genuinely feel, because here's the thing, this always I feel like gets like forgotten by these people. Jesus had to die. Jesus was born, created, made to die for the sins of man.
Yeah.
So
he was there, and his gift to everyone else that follows that religion is that his death cleansed your sins.
Mm-hmm. If only he had picked up an AR-15 and sinned more.
It's like getting to heaven before was waiting in a 3-hour line to get on Splash Mountain, but now you have a fast pass. Fast pass is Jesus.
That's hilarious. I just like...
that was a really niche joke.
She said that as a joke, obviously, but like on some level, she doesn't get that the bigger joke is her.
Oh, no.
Right? Like, she doesn't understand that.
She believes that.
Mm-hmm.
She believes that Jesus would have militarized himself against Pontius Pilate.
If only Jesus had a gun.
If only Jesus had some AR-15s to take out the Pharisees, take out Pontius Pilate.
But then again,
he would still be alive today.
But then what would have happened to mankind? Because then he wouldn't have died for our sins.
Well, clearly he would have been immortal and he would still be here and he would be ruling the entire world and no other religion would exist, only Christians.
Oh.
It'd be a Christian gun paradise.
Oh. Right, because again, big fan of guns, Jesus, known.
Big fan
it is
of guns.
known.
Loved
big
him.
fan of guns.
Loved him.
Oh my God, I can't.
He loved violence.
Yeah, obviously. When he was talking about turn the other cheek, so people actually get that wrong. he would smack people and then be like, now turn the other cheek so I can fucking hit that one too.
So get you
That's-
harder than the second one.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. He was a big fan of that. He was a big fan of hitting them on the forward and the back.
And here I thought it was just like light booty taps.
No, definitely not light
That's what
booty
Jesus
taps.
was about. It was,
That's
it
what
was pretty
Jesus
kinky.
was about. He did love women of the night, so.
Him and the Mary.
I do want to talk
Not
real
his mom.
briefly. I do want to talk real briefly about the Lobo controversy that's come out.
Okay.
I know it's been contested, and of course the rumors are that she was a hired escort,
Mhm.
and as a result of that has had multiple abortions. That's again unsubstantiated. She denies it.
So
I don't-
this is one of those.
Go ahead.
This is one of those things where like my anti Lauren Boebert brain goes, yes, get her,
Mm-hmm.
and then my left leaning brain goes, those are all things that are fine and legal or should be.
Yep. It's the same place that I fall on where you would never out somebody without their consent unless they are actively harming the gay community.
Yeah,
And it's the same thing where, hey man, if you got an abortion, that's between you and you. You know?
Yeah.
But when you are actively trying to remove that right from other people, I think
Then
the
it should be
hypocrisy should be noted. Because it's insane. Because it's like what we said when we talked about this when it leaked months ago.
Mhm.
Abortion bans disproportionately affect low-income people because abortion will never actually be illegal for the upper wealthy top class. It just won't be.
Yeah.
They will always have that access. They will retain that access.
well, it's like so right now with. I mean, do we just fully go into it with the overturning of Roe? What the Supreme Court has said is that it's up for the states to decide. That Roe overstepped, and the way that it was, like, the laws that they cited and the things and the rights that they cited are not substantial enough for the federal government to be overseeing this. That
Right,
it should go
states'
back to the
rights.
states.
States'
States
rights.
should decide. So in the Midwest, that pretty much just leaves Minnesota as a place where you could get an abortion.
That's misfortune.
Yep.
Because saying the A word might put us on a list now.
Oh, really?
Who knows?
So that's it. It's pretty much just Minnesota up there.
Mhm.
So if you have the means and the money, like to travel to Minnesota to take time off
Yep.
to go get an abortion,
Yep.
you're fine. This
Yep.
didn't affect you.
100%.
It's inconvenienced you, but
Yeah. But it doesn't
Nothing.
actually stop you, right?
yeah, that doesn't actually stop you. But if you don't have those means, this has ruined your life.
Quite literally.
This has potentially killed you if you live in a state where there aren't exemptions, where it's
Medical
like fully
exemptions.
illegal, where there aren't even exemptions for, like pregnancies where the mother is at risk of dying.
Right. It's important to note this because it's being brought up more and more, and it is true. The Jewish religion, actually, abortion is a religious right for
Yeah.
Jews.
If the life of the mother is at risk,
Correct.
you save the mother.
It's actually written, like it's actually mentioned, very directly. So it's interesting because abortion is not directly mentioned, from what I understand, in the Bible as much.
No.
So it's interesting where it's actually directly mentioned in this religious text. That is now irrelevant, even though
Well, so
freedom of
it's-
religion is real. It's not.
When we look at where most organized religion stands now on the abortion debate versus where it stood when Roe happened, a lot of major Christian religions, like a lot of Catholics and I think even like the Southern Baptist Church, was like, this is awful and you shouldn't do it, but if you need to because it's going to kill you, or like in these instances, we like, you should.
Not
and
anymore,
so it's very and it's like, it is the long arc. I mean, it's not a long arc, it's Reagan. Everything can be traced back to Ronald Reagan.
He's a terrible human being. But he is dead, so that's a plus. That's positive.
And he did die during Pride Month.
W. Big W for the gays.
Which is always great. Always great. But the shift is just so mind-blowing. And like like I said, like I understand, and there's a part of my mind that always is like, well, if I was a person who menstruated and I was in that position, I wouldn't want to. But also, I can never know that.
Right.
That's
but
bullshit.
Also, you not wanting to doesn't mean that somebody else wouldn't want to, for very legitimate reasons.
But it's still not my right to take away someone else's right.
Exactly.
And we don't have a social safety net in place
At
for
all.
these people.
If
someone gets pregnant, they don't have universal health care to
Correct.
pay for all their doctor's visits, or the extra risk that being pregnant puts on your body.
Correct.
Like the extra strain, it's very common for people to get diabetes when they're pregnant.
Yep.
At least temporarily. Like, if you're old enough, you could need to be on bed rest for the last 3 months of your pregnancy.
Yep.
There's all sorts of medical risks just being.
But at least we do maternity leave, though. Oh,
another point.
We don't?
We don't. We don't. No paid maternity leave.
Oh, that's rough.
Republicans have spent the last decades trying to gut the social safety net, so food stamps are not as robust as they once were.
It's just it's wild, because for the last several decades they've done this thing where they actively remove social beneficial programs and then use that to point to how the system is failing. It's like, I'm gonna light this house on fire and then be like, this house sucks, it's on fire.
Yeah.
You did that.
Well, it's more like this house is such a fire risk because we've replaced all the electrical with, things that will catch fire.
No, we went back to knob and tube, actually. We decided that was going to be better.
Yeah. We put lead in all the pipes. We switched all the paint to lead paint. There's asbestos in this house. It's a real big risk. We should just bulldoze it.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's nuts.
But it's not even. It'll be. We should bulldoze it and sell it to a private corporation.
Yeah, who will do it better?
Who will do it better? Definitely won't cut corners.
Definitely won't. But then, even if all these things existed, even if it was we were utopia level of access to healthcare, care for the mother, care for the child, everything. Even if we had way more social workers, an easier and more rigorous foster system, where we're making sure that foster parents were good people. Adoption was easier for people who were going to be good parents.
Cheaper.
Even if all these things existed, it doesn't fucking matter, because if someone doesn't want to be pregnant, they shouldn't be pregnant.
That's a fact.
It's
that simple. Yep. That's where the argument ends.
That's it.
See, and this is some dystopian shit, but Eric in the chat points out, but will you be required to take a pregnancy test when you get back to prove you didn't get an abortion and get arrested when you get back? In regards to women crossing state lines to get abortions.
Well,
is that
Texas that there are legislators that are trying to
they're trying to pass laws so that they can still hold you accountable for having the procedure done in another state, and then those states are saying that they will not allow that to happen. This is literally going to cause like so many fucking legal issues for people because we are one country.
What it feels like is it feels like what the Bill of Rights was created for in the first place, which was conflicts across state lines. Like, was the federal government being like, Andrew Jackson starting issues to be like, hey, we need to have more authority over the states.
Right.
Whole other topic. But
I do need to point this out because you very correctly mentioned one of the main arguments presented by the Supreme Court regarding Roe v. Wade is that it overstepped its bounds and this needs to be left at a state level for the states to decide. So I think it's super relevant to also mention that in the same week they did that, they also struck down a New York law requiring people in New York, right? Not a federal law. It was a state law for the state of New York, requiring people to demonstrate a need to get a license to carry a gun in public because that shouldn't be left up to the states.
No.
The hypocrisy.
How dare healthcare policies be set by the government, by the federal government, but guns.
I just don't understand how people can consolidate this in their brains. You have to turn your brain off, quite literally.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can't think about it too much because the second you think about it, you're fucked.
It is dystopian levels of like, what the fuck.
Yeah, we live in a country where guns have more rights than women. It's fucking sad.
I would say people, not women. So it's not always just women who have a uterus.
Thank you.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
Absolutely.
It's a hard switch to make, but a more inclusive switch to make. We got a book from AJ. It's frustrating because even well-meaning people don't understand that aspect of abortion. I don't fault people for valuing what they perceive to be a potential life. I do fault them for expecting everyone to feel the way they do, and are then okay with people's autonomy being regulated away.
Right. Because it comes down to their religious belief dictating policy and life for everybody. And that's not okay.
So, I mean, to be completely transparent, like, I still haven't decided what I feel about when that is a person. I don't know. I don't know. Abortion should happen rarely, in my mind. Like, it's not something that we should be seeking to do a lot of. But it also people should be able to access it. If someone doesn't want to be pregnant, they shouldn't be pregnant.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that is.
I'm okay. I don't want to say I'm going to push back because I'm not like pushing back, but I already am worried with some of the words that you chose to use only because it so often becomes straw men of these women are using abortion as birth control, and that doesn't really exist. You know, so
no, it doesn't.
It's so because it so like there. I mean, I can't. Because women aren't a monolith. People aren't a monolith, right? People with uteruses are not a monolith, okay? People who can be pregnant are not a monolith, right? So there is exceptions to every rule. There is almost no people who choose to have an abortion who are like, God, that was great. Can't wait to do that again. This is a traumatic experience for all parties involved.
Yeah.
And it's not a decision that's generally made lightly. And so when people talk about it in terms of it being a flippant decision that's just made casually, it's frustrating. And I'm not saying you're doing that, but it's spoken about a lot of times in that sense. And it's like, this is so not
absolutely.
reasonable.
It's not. It's a huge decision.
Right. And
like,
it's yes, and it is often gone about as a huge life altering decision, you know? Like there's so often a cause, like an actual reason, whether it is financial, social, even like in terms of like what's my peer pressure, societal, what's my family gonna think about this, how is this gonna make me be perceived. Those are all really difficult decisions, whether it's health related. All of those are generally playing a role in why someone chooses to do this. It's not something people look forward to, and it's so frustrating that it's, because even talking about it any other terms removes the essence of like what we're actually doing here, because we're talking about bodily autonomy for these people. That's what it is.
Absolutely. Like at the end of the day, once again, someone doesn't want to be pregnant, they shouldn't be pregnant.
It's
that
that
is going
simple.
to be a horrible decision.
100%.
And it's not one that people take lightly.
Absolutely. And they shouldn't. That's good. You know? But like also, there are so many things that we could do as a country if we actually cared about reducing rates of abortion, that you wouldn't have to reduce access.
No.
You could just like make sex education a real thing.
Fund robust sex education.
You could make access to birth control free.
Free birth control. Expand the social safety net. Because guess what? Unplanned pregnancies affect people in poverty more than disproportionately than they affect other people.
Disproportionately. Always. Because it's like, it's funny how often you hear rich people say, money can't solve your problems and money can't buy you happiness. Motherfucker,
so many
then
problems.
fucking donate all your money. Go live on the fucking street then. Like, money absolutely solves those problems. You, as somebody who haves, want the have-nots to believe that so they don't get so angry.
So they're not pissed at you.
Right? Yeah. Of course money solves problems. Fuck out of here, dude.
Live like, $1 above the federal poverty line for a year.
If money doesn't solve problems. Yeah, do that. Fucking Christ. Like, it pisses me off. Because of course it disproportionately affects people in poverty. Like, how is it not going to? When you can just throw money at a problem. Because, like, think about we talk about, like, lack of maternity and paternity leave. How many people do you know in your life that have had a baby and one of the partners had to quit their job because childcare was so expensive? It's more than zero.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
It's not sustainable, but we force people to have babies.
My mom, when she had me, quit her job. And the way she first went back to work is she opened a daycare. So she could still watch me.
That's a hustle. Smart. Like, respect.
Yeah, exactly.
Mad respect.
But like that was her first foray back into the workplace. But even then, not everyone can do that. My mom could do that because of where they currently lived. My dad made enough money that they had a house. Right. Like, that it was their house.
Right. That's insane. That's not reasonable.
No, it's
just one of those things. I think it's a tough choice for all parties involved. If it's not, then you're an outlier. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you actually really want to reduce abortions in this country, then you should reduce the situations that lead people to feel like that is their best option. And that's the reality. That being said, I'm never ever gonna shame somebody for getting an abortion or anything like that. You don't have to explain it to me. Nobody is better equipped to make decisions for you than you know? Yeah. So
it just, yeah, like if you want this to be less, there are ways that you can lessen abortions.
Yep.
There are
Very,
very
easy,
easy,
tangible ways. Yep.
tangible ways to do this.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, if you don't want an abortion, don't get an abortion.
It's that. So, hey, if you don't want to get gay married, don't get gay married.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
I don't want to get straight married. I'm never.
Then don't get straight married. It's great.
No,
You don't have to.
I'm not trying to take away straight people's, ability to get married.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that just, it's always going to be mind blowing. And I do understand people talk about it's not as simple as if you don't want an abortion, don't get an abortion, because a lot of these people genuinely believe that life starts at conception. And so, like, I understand that becomes more of a difficult ethical issue. But for me, and it's like what you said, I think where it starts and ends is like, yo, if you don't want to be pregnant, you shouldn't be forced to be pregnant.
But how many of those people, and so this is the one that is a kicker for me, how many of those people are okay with the death penalty?
100%.
Because that is in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. Also, isn't
that being a horrible...
Is it masturbation not allowed either? Per the Bible? Isn't that like another kind of a in contention?
There's stuff in like the Old Testament, but the Old Testament, if it comes up in the Old Testament with Christianity, it's murky. It's when they feel like using it, because technically anything that was, a lot of the stuff that was like not okay in the Old Testament, it is like Jesus is like, no, you're fine, you're cool.
It's fine.
He also talked about it. Is usually the thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's why shellfish is not an issue for most Christian religions.
Weird.
That's why they're not keeping kosher.
Yeah, I get that. I don't need it
because that's all in the Old Testament. So.
It's the hypocrisy, picking and choosing what's important to you, like you said, right?
Yeah.
Are you against the death penalty?
But people
then,
will
like,
shout
actively...
Leviticus at me.
Right.
So.
People suck.
Like, don't quote Leviticus at me if you're going to eat some shrimp. Like, we're done.
We're done here. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the next topic, which is important because it plays right along with the Roe v. Wade stuff here. Mm-hmm. Judge Clarence Thomas.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alec.
Oh, Thomas. Okay.
Whose wife, just so we're clear, did participate in the January 6th insurrections.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just so
and
we're
whose
clear.
marriage only is legal because of Supreme Court decision.
That's crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's an interracial marriage, and it's a Supreme Court decision that makes that okay. That is based on similar ideas. But he doesn't bring that up. So he said here is, for that reason, in future cases, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell. So if you don't know what those are, Obergefell is expanding marriage, so same-sex marriage. Griswold, I believe, is the one that is about access to contraceptives.
Yep.
And Lawrence is sodomy laws.
Mm-hmm.
There are something like 12 states that still have sodomy laws.
Yes. Well,
because they're just on the books still.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where it's not enforced, right? But it's actually still part of the legislature.
Yeah, it's like how abortion is now illegal in Wisconsin because there was a law that just never got taken off because Roe v. Wade was overruling it. But, like, it's just insane. Mm-hmm. Also, the Lawrence decision, we all know like how recent Obergefell was, but Lawrence is 2003.
Right, it's not even old.
Laws were legal to exist still in 2003.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find it because it's one like there's some in Oregon. It was way too fucking late, where like women actually legally still on the books were like property, like wives were property, and legally did not have the right to turn a sexual encounter down from their husband. So, like, rape was legal if you were married, is what that essentially meant. Up until, like, way too fucking late in Oregon. It's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, if the federal law doesn't circumvent that, that actually is the law on the book still.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, no one's going to necessarily spend a lot of effort usually
to overturn this, right?
Getting it repealed because they're like, well,
this is stupid.
Law is superseding this. This is stupid.
Right.
Like, and it's not considered. But
now
people in Texas are ready for those sodomy laws to come back.
But doesn't that also mean, like, not to be crass or whatever? I'm sorry if anybody is offended by this stuff, but like reality, wouldn't that make oral sex illegal as well?
Yes,
right.
It does.
So it quite literally means that the only legal sex you're allowed to have is missionary position, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up, lights have to be off, missionary position.
And so I've seen some bad, like, white gay takes on this of like, well, how will they know what I'm doing inside my house? It's not.
Oh my God. That's not the point.
That's not the point. Literally, this Lawrence ended up at trial in the first place because two men were seen going into a house together and were arrested on the grounds of sodomy laws. Not because they were, like, out in the street. Like, they were in the privacy of their own home. Because that's what all of these laws are. They're all privacy laws.
It's privacy laws. That's what it comes down to.
Which is terrifying.
Yep.
In so many ways.
And not just quick tangent though. If you think that Clarence Thomas didn't cite privacy laws as a reason why his wife can't be fucking charged for January 6th and why we don't need to look into that, you're out of your fucking mind. Because he absolutely hid behind privacy laws for that.
He did.
Piece of shit.
And his marriage is a privacy law.
That's the thing. He's right. I'm not going to say he's wrong because that sense of like that. Yeah, yes, what you do in your marriage should be protected. Yeah. If everyone's a consenting adult and nobody's getting hurt, why the fuck does anyone else care?
So when we're sitting here and like a lot of this has been probably the biggest thing I've seen talked about, which is rightly so, besides just like Roe was overturned, this is a tragedy, this is terrifying.
It's precedent.
Like, this is horrifying.
Right, we're overturning privacy laws now.
Is horrifying. And once again, now we're seeing, do you have the Bette Midler tweet?
Oh,
we're seeing people being like, you know, they're coming for gays next. It's like, well, they've been coming for gays. They've just been coming, you know, a little less directly through the trans community for years.
Yeah, there's the Bette Midler tweet. I'm gonna pull it up here.
Midler.
I fucking love this.
You're next.
So Bette Midler, to be clear, ally. She meant this as like a call to action.
Bette Midler probably knows more gay people than straight people. But this is supposed to be a call to action. But it sounds like Bette Midler is gonna show up at my door.
She's coming for the gays.
And just smack me on the head with the lead pipe. Which honestly, if that's how I gotta go, that's a fine way to go.
Yeah,
as
right.
Long as she sings a little ditty afterwards.
Oh, I didn't see this reply, but this reply is actually fire. You wouldn't try to regulate my vagina if it fired bullets.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I love Bette Midler. But also, like, hilarity aside, she's correct.
She's correct.
She's 100% correct.
Because all of those laws, even the contraceptives, because what are you, like, condoms are also a really great form of preventing the transmission of STDs.
STIs.
Sorry, STIs.
I know, we're old.
We're old.
Old habits, but, man. Like, it's true. But yeah. Also, where is that mentioned in the Constitution? Like, so, how is this anything other than religious?
Yeah, it's just overreach. It's just the dissolution of the separation of church and state, which was also a decision this week. Did you see that?
No.
They ruled that, I think it was that state governments can't not fund religious schools.
Oh, I think I did see something about that. Yeah. Okay, but how come they don't have to pay taxes?
Exactly. Like,
I don't I'm like, I'm so confused.
If you want assistance from the government, you need to be part of the government. Like,
it's just because, like, here's the thing. This is like, okay, so I want to say this appropriately, right? America has operated for a long time with a series of facades. Religious freedom has always been a facade. Mm-hmm. Separation of church and state has always been a facade. Mm-hmm. And as a white male, heterosexual, cis male, it's been very easy to, like, you know, live with those facades and, like, pretend that they were real. But, like, hey, man, I don't even think that I can pretend that they're real anymore, you know? Like, it's gotten so in your face, like, obvious with what they're doing. They're not even trying to hide this shit. They're quite literally saying the quiet parts out loud, right? Like, oh, the government actually needs to fund these religious schools, but the religious schools still don't have to pay taxes. But taxes need to support them, actually.
Well, and it always feels like when we actually talk about separation of church and state, we get hung up on the stupidest shit, which is like, can kids pray at their school soccer game? Like, I don't give a shit.
Who gives a fuck?
Sure.
But the law can't be kids have to pray. That's the difference. That's the fuck. It's that simple.
Pray. But, like, I don't even know if I've ever... So, like, I'm a huge fan of The West Wing. I've watched it many, many times. It's hilarious to watch now, being so far left of what their crazy left people on that show are.
Right.
Like it's like, oh, that is like right of center, and it's like your representation of a super lefty loon.
Yep.
But, like, one of the episodes that every time I'm like, this is not my experience, so I don't know, but also I don't think that this is a hill to die on, is about separation of church and state within schools. And it's like one of the Jewish characters being like, as a Jewish kid, I shouldn't have had to sit through all these Christian prayers in my school. And it's like, okay, if they were forcing you, but it's like from a perspective of being left out, of feeling othered by it. And like, I get that, but also at the same time, that is not the top of my list of making sure religion doesn't creep into X government thing. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I actually do have a perspective on that. I do have a perspective.
Yeah, you do. So, like,
yeah.
I'm interested in your perspective, because I'm like, cool, there are other things that would be higher on my list.
100%.
But should the Pledge of Allegiance say "In God We Trust"? Thanks, McCarthy.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, so like, I never had prayer forced on me in school or anything like that. But like, a really like, something that, like, people don't think about, right, is like every major Christian holiday is celebrated in schools. In your face, big time. Mm-hmm. Jewish holidays are not mentioned at all.
No.
And so, like, every year there was just that, like, and like, you know, I grew up celebrating Christmas too. So like, it was easier for me to, like, fit in. But like, I also went to school with, like, we had one Jewish kid who was actually Jewish, who, like, didn't celebrate Christmas. And like, I just remember always feeling like so much empathy for him during all of, like, December, where it's like, we're doing all these, like, Christmas trees and gingerbread stuff and all this shit. And it's like, this 100% is exiling this child. Like, he does not fit into any of these activities because culturally that's not him. That's not his culture. And that's okay. But it is forced on you. It is a weird perspective to have.
Like, but that to me is a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be talking about Santa.
Right. But those things are, like, part of curriculum.
Santa Claus is.
Right.
Saint Nicholas.
Right. It's a religious thing. But it's baked into the curriculum so heavy at this point that, like, unless you're going to a Jewish Orthodox school, you're dealing with Christmas trees and gingerbread men and candy canes and the Easter bunny. All of that shit is coming up. They'll just not get into Jesus's birthday and whatnot, but like, you are kind of still forced to celebrate it. Like, it is a very weird thing.
So one of my honestly like the most bizarro interactions with the whole like Christmas as a secular holiday versus Christmas as a religious holiday, because it is a religious holiday, no matter how secularized it becomes.
Correct.
Is the years I spent working for Starbucks, because those cups would come out and people would be like, are the red cups Christmassy enough? And there was the one year that they definitely weren't, because they were just red. And people got all mad. And it's like, the coffee is still called Christmas blend. The whole store is decorated red and green.
Not enough.
Like, Santa Claus is on like a third of the gift cards. There's Christmas trees on them. This is still very much like a store that you walk into and you go, oh, it's Jesus-y in here.
Right.
Like,
but that's the thing. It's just like, it's so weird how like Christians especially pretend to be under prosecution, even though like they're winning. Like you are winning. You won. You've already won. And you're still pretending to be under prosecution.
Absolutely.
Like, we use your calendar, bro. Jews have their own calendar. We don't use the Jew calendar.
No, it's very true. It's very true.
Like, you won, and yet it's still not enough. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, and I would even argue that Christmas becoming such a non-religious holiday is another example of Christians winning. That's an intentional effort to make it part of American culture, you know?
Because, little Jimmy, whose parents are atheists, is still going to get steeped in Christianity.
100%, whether he knows it or not. It's hidden. It's
through the celebration of Christmas and Easter.
And even then, because fucking Christmas was the winter solstice, and they fucking stole that anyways. They're like, oh, you're drinking for Jesus. You didn't know, but you're actually getting drunk right now for Jesus. You didn't know that. Well, you thought you were just drinking, but...
The custom of a Christmas tree is a pagan tradition.
Like, fucking insane, dude. It's just insane. It's insane. Christians won. The Christians won.
Every single thing that you think of as like a Christmas tradition is a pagan tradition.
100% is a pagan tradition. Because it was already being done. And they're like, oh, so you're this whole celebration? Well, it's actually for Jesus. Right, not during December.
We know when he was born because it was a census that actually happened. Because guess what? The Romans kept good records of things. There was a census that Mary and Joseph had to show up for. And that's when he was born. It happened in the spring.
Which is not December?
Which is not December.
Oh, it's not December! That's crazy. That's crazy.
So, it just,
No, it's literally a convenience thing. It's like, hey, you guys are already celebrating. We're just gonna steal this and say that you've been celebrating for Jesus. You just didn't know.
I had friends when I was a kid who would come to church with my family, whose families didn't go to church for Christmassy things. Because it would be like, well, I'm in like the Christmas play at church. Come see me do that.
Come see me do the Christmas play.
Yeah.
Yep. I love AJ says, Jesus just has a really long birthday week.
God. Well,
just like 8 months. No big deal.
Yeah, and the school year is structured around
Christmas
holidays.
Christian holidays, right. None of the high holidays. Like, I remember sometimes it would just work out so that you would have some Hanukkah days off. And it was like, yo, it's sick.
Isn't even Hanukkah not like one of the big ones?
It's not a high holiday. Correct. It's just near Christmas. And so everybody assumes it's like the most important holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like Yom Kippur
is a more important holiday. Passover is a more important holiday. Rosh Hashanah, more important holiday. Yeah. All of those. All of those.
So
Purim, more important holiday. Yep.
Yeah.
But none of those are right next to Christmas sometimes. So
and Hanukkah is just the Christmas adjacent holiday.
Well, it's also the Festival of Lights, so like it feels like it matches with the Christmas stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the lights and they're so pretty. It's
you
so
can go
nice.
buy blue twinkly lights at the same time.
Oh my God! Speaking of, did you see I forget if we talked about it on the podcast, but like some Republican senator for was it Passover put out like Hanukkah branded stuff, like a tweet
For Passover?
for Passover. They were like, and a happy Passover to all of you, and it was like a dreidel and a menorah. And I was like, oh my god. The blatant pandering done so wrong. Like, imagine putting a dreidel for a Passover celebration, bro. That's insane.
Just like Googling Jewish holiday.
Jew.
Oh no.
Like, it's insane. It's just fucking insane. That was a very real thing that happened. It was like one of those, like, tell me you don't have any Jews on your staff without telling me you don't have any Jews on your staff kind of a thing.
Because when I think about it, I've pretty much always had, like, one Jewish friend.
Mm-hmm.
And even that level of exposure has made me so much, like, better educated than anyone ever. But it's always been, like, one.
Yeah. Well, okay, so...
I grew up in Central and Southern California.
Yeah.
And now I live in Wisconsin.
But even outside of that,
Got
there's not a lot of Jews in the world.
That's true.
For various reasons. There's also a historic precedent of Jews not admitting to being Jewish. Like, this is a real thing. Jews get outed all the time.
I wonder why they wouldn't.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Why.
I don't know if you recall, but we were certainly of the age where it would be on MTV. Adam Sandler's the Hanukkah songs.
Mm-hmm.
He outed a lot of Jews, quite literally, in those songs. And there were some Jews who were like not happy about it. Because it was like, bro, you're making my life more difficult.
We were like,
please
don't bring attention to this.
Please don't. Well, like, think about the fact that, like, it's very common in Jews in Hollywood still to change their names. Like, it's very common.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We don't need to fucking soapbox this, but it's just that it's a thing still.
They get more work that way.
100%.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember being a kid and, like, reading that if you took the population of the world and, like, boiled it down to a village of, like, 100 people or whatever, there less than 1/2 of one person would be Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you actually having one Jewish friend throughout your life consistently, like, puts you ahead of most people.
No, that's what I mean. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But also, like, terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many of those holidays are about persecution?
Most of them. So, like, I remember
Most
somebody once said on Twitter, it's actually a great joke if you celebrated a lot of Jewish holidays. It's like, theme of Jewish holidays. They tried to kill us. We survived. Let's feast.
We survived. Let's see. Yeah, like.
That's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's sad.
Like,
it's sad.
Christians can talk a big game about persecution, but, like.
But that's why, too, when, like, I see Jews in 2022 that are, like, Republicans, I'm like, I wish I could kick you out. Like, I wish I could kick you out of the club, dude. How? Yeah. Your ancestors have been persecuted throughout the entirety of their existence, and you are now pro-persecution.
I have the same feeling for log cabin Republicans. Like, excuse me?
How?
For those who don't know, log cabin Republicans are gay men that are Republicans. It's an official organization.
Didn't Trump Jr. just say, like, we need to support log cabin Republicans and get a lot of flack for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are ostracized by their own party that they are with, except when, 1 month out of the year, they need to be trotted on stage.
For voting purposes.
Like, we do care about you.
Yeah, because we want your votes.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it is the same way that the Democratic Party treats minorities.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's not...
all of them. It's all of the minorities.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, don't identify as Democrat, because
No.
also bad.
Also bad.
Also bad.
Yeah. But yeah, ugh. This is not. I don't see this because this started with the Clarence Thomas decision. I don't see this getting
nowhere
better.
in the notes, people.
No, I don't see this getting better. I see this getting worse. I see rights being taken away slowly but surely until we're back to fucking, I don't even know, man. Sex with the lights off, no eye contact between a man and a woman that are both white. A cis man and woman that are both white.
Yeah. Yeah. It is
It's tough.
terrifying.
Yep.
It is terrifying. We're running long, and I feel like I need to do more work in before we talk about it. Like looking up, there are things that are more liberal people in government could do.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways that you can demand more of those people.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm going to throw this out here, and every time I, like, with all of the baggage that comes along with this, like, please vote.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not easy, and that people are actively trying to stop us from voting.
Also, maybe violence.
I
don't know, man. I can't. If now's not the time. Like, if you're gonna hide behind now's not the time for violence. First of all, when is? And secondly, name me a time in history where significant progress was made without violence. Because the people in power will always say now's not the time for violence.
I mean, hey, we're in Pride Month. Stonewall was gay people beating up cops. Like,
and guess what they got? They got some rights out of it. Rights that are now being taken away.
But, like, that's what Stonewall was.
Yes.
The cops came to raid Stonewall because the mafia that ran it had fallen behind on their protection payments. And so they came to beat up and arrest some gay people. And the gay people trapped them inside Stonewall and threw rocks at them.
Good.
Like, they fought back.
Good.
Violently.
And I'm seeing it on the streets. I mean, these protests that are happening after the decision of Roe v. Wade, cops are violent. Cops are getting very violent, and they feel too safe. Like, they just do. I don't know, man. It's like, I've never been one to be like, violence is the answer, but I don't know at what point, like, if violence is now not the answer, when rights are actively being taken away from people, when is it the answer?
I feel like we just need, like, people need to Google, like, French protest.
Right. It worked for, I literally was telling my girlfriend the other day, I was like, hey, Smashination, it worked for the French. And I hate the French, but it did work for the French.
Like, still to this day, if the French people feel like their government is not doing things for them, they set cars on fire.
Yeah.
Like,
which, to be fair, America is fine with that if your sports team just won a championship. Then that is okay. Or lost, that is okay.
Either way.
Acceptable.
If it's in the name of your sports team.
AJ's right, too. I want to be very clear. They're not getting violent. They've been violent. It's just more public. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just easier to see it.
And I think they're getting quicker to violence because I think that they are scared on some level. Because people are pissed. And when 20,000 people show up, it's getting violent real quick.
It's a fear of the power that you have being taken away.
Right. 100%. It's just insane. It's just insane. And like I said, I don't know. I don't know. When is the time then? Speaking of, like, another thing that was just ruled on by the Supreme Court is Miranda rights are being not taken away. It's important to understand you still have your Miranda rights. But it's also important to understand that cops now can't be sued for failing to read them to you, which feels like a step towards removing Miranda rights.
Yes.
It feels like that
This
is now
is-
what we're actively working towards.
Simultaneously, like, the least immediate concerning, but still insanely concerning in the long run decision
Yep.
of the week, of the last 2 weeks, which is horrifying to say, because, like, this is terrible.
Yep.
This is terrible. You do still have your Miranda rights.
It's important to
can't-
understand that.
You just can't get your case thrown out if the police officer did not read them to you.
Which is like, so people are gonna, it's this a frustrating cycle of outrage where this news comes out, people are rightfully outraged because this is insane, and then they are gaslit into believing that they are overreacting because this doesn't actually take away your Miranda rights. Until the next step, which then comes closer to taking away your Miranda rights, and then all of a sudden you've lost these rights.
Yeah.
This is the cycle.
Well, and it like further illustrates the fact that the police officers don't have to know the law.
Right.
They don't. You don't have to have a criminal justice degree, a law degree, something relevant to your job to become a police officer.
Cops don't even have any, and we've talked about this briefly before, but they don't have any legal requirement to protect you, even.
No.
Pull that up here. I didn't go through this thread in full. Did you go all the way through it?
I did go all the way through it, but I went all the way through it 2 weeks ago. So, but yeah, it's basically talking about a case in 2005 that this woman had an order of protection against her ex-husband. For her and her children, he took the kids. She went to the police station and was like, "Hey, my ex took my kids."
Mm-hmm.
And they did nothing. He murdered their kids and then he murdered her.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is not an isolated incident either.
No.
By any means.
And then the Supreme Court, it got up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that they were not required. Oh, he showed up to kill her, but he didn't kill her. Sorry.
He killed the kids, though. He kidnapped and then killed the kids.
He killed kids. Who, the protection order included them. So, like, not only is this just kidnapping in general, there was actually something
an
legal.
Active restraining order, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they did nothing.
Right, and they were found to have been not at fault.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
So.
That sounds about right. I do want to show another quick video. Just of some more unhinged, absolute lunacy. And this is funny, I tried to link directly to this video, and I couldn't. Because the video is a violation of TOS on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
So I'm going to play the whole video. I think this is important. And so Twitter even says that it's against terms of service, but they left it because it's a political thing. And they think that it's important that people see this. So I'm going to play this. It's like 30 seconds. And I just think it's important that people hear what this individual is asking for.
I'm Eric Greitens, Navy SEAL, and today we're going rhino hunting. The rhino feeds on corruption and is marked by the stripes of cowardice. Join the MAGA crew, get a rhino hunting permit. There's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country.
Literally calling for violence against political opposition.
Yeah, he's calling for... So for people who don't know, RINO, R-I-N-O, is an acronym for Republican in name only. And so that ad is quite literally saying these Republicans that I disagree with, go murder them. Go out and kill them because we're protecting the country. Quite literally, in no uncertain terms, that is exactly what he just asked for. Murder the people that I disagree with politically. That are in my own fucking party, mind you.
Yeah.
They're not MAGA enough. So they need to be killed. This is where we're at.
Insane.
This is literally where we're at right now.
And like, I understand both sides of Twitter leaving it up. Like, I understand.
Yep.
Like, we should be able to see that this man thought this was okay.
Yes.
And this is who you would be electing.
Yes. He is
The
running on
problem
this
is-
platform.
The problem is he's still running for office.
This isn't going to stop him.
He's still being allowed to run for office when he is inciting violence
He's calling for
against
murder.
people.
He's
calling for
literally calling for murder. I don't...
I mean, I understand why, like, from a big picture perspective, I understand why nothing's happening with that. Because currently we're having, like, we haven't talked about this at all, but, like, the January 6th hearings are going on right now.
Yeah.
Where the president called for the death of the vice president.
Mm-hmm. He
Donald
won't be held...
Trump wanted them to murder Mike Pence.
Yeah, he won't be held accountable for that, by the way.
The president on television called for the murder of the vice president.
Mm-hmm. But because he didn't actually say murder Mike Pence,
Yeah.
that they're hide behind that. But in this ad, he actually did say murder these people, and that's still also not too far for some reason.
Like, to throw it back to sicko pastor guy, when are we going to start trying these people for treason? Because that's what that is.
It's unbelievable. It's actually unbelievable. And yet, it's not unbelievable at all because America.
We have laws against planning murders.
Yes, we quite literally do.
Like, you can get prosecuted for criminal intent.
But he won't.
He
might get elected, in fact.
he might get elected.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Mega Man in chat said, who signs off on this shit? Because that's the thing. Even if that was his idea, multiple people were involved in the filming and then the editing and then putting that out and signed off on that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That
insane.
wasn't his idea. He
They're
has
like,
a
"This is
campaign
great.
manager that came up with that shit.
This is gonna poll really well for us.
He has an insane campaign manager who was like, this is how we talk to our base.
Yep.
This is how we get them riled up.
Yep. It's fucking
This is
insane.
how we appeal to them.
It's fucking insane.
Like, there's a reason why it says there that he was, what was he, a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Why it says he's a Navy SEAL. The gun choice is there for a reason. The way he's dressed, how he's not dressed in tactical gear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of that is meticulously chosen.
Very intentional.
I guarantee you the house that was chosen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, like, it's not one person. It's everyone involved in that.
It's everybody. Yeah, and like Mega Man said again, somebody wrote that script too. Somebody came up with that and like actually wrote that out as a script. That's crazy. And people on Twitter were pointing out that some of the uniformed individuals actually had patches, like indicating which branch or unit they were in, which is like very illegal. You're not allowed to be an active service military member in a campaign video.
Wonder if anything's going to happen for that.
No, certainly
That's more
not.
likely.
Probably
That's more
raises. Probably raises.
Probably raises. Oh, no. Yeah.
So we're about at the 2 hour mark. We have a couple more things. Did you want to... They're not huge things, so we could easily shift to our more fun stuff and kind of wind it down here.
I could blow through and then answer. Well, one of the questions we're going to have to be brief on because we could probably have spent the whole 2 hours on the question.
Is this the Sardi question? Wait, what? I didn't see
No,
this.
the first one.
Oh, the one from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you're the one who put that in.
That's my question. Yeah, that was my question.
I like that you put it in the questions and not just a topic.
Well, I don't think it's enough for a full topic.
I don't know about that.
So yeah,
I
well,
mean,
okay, so yeah, go ahead.
So the question that Trev asks the Beanscast is it possible to ethically own more than one home in 2022? And it does have a quick answer, which is no.
No, right.
No.
So I asked this during AJ's stream too as a segment because I was curious what everybody kind of thought. And so full transparency, right? We were looking to buy a second home. And it kind of kept coming back to this weird, like, what if we buy it in like an area where it's like, you know, a tourist like vacation area? Mm-hmm. So it's like probably not actually taking a house away from somebody. Yeah. But then you actually still are because people do still live there. And if you weren't buying that house, somebody else still who lived there would almost certainly be buying that house.
People that work in the industry that feeds the tourism. Yep.
100%. But then also on the other side of that, if somebody who isn't me buys that house, it could be way worse. Like in terms of true. if they're going to be a landlord anyways, and they could be way worse.
I get it. I get that it's a weird financial position to be in.
Yeah.
To be like, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I can create a space for me, like a vacation home.
Right.
Where we could go.
Mm-hmm.
I could be ethical as possible in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do we, actually be like a cool Airbnb? Those don't exist anymore.
That was the thought, was like Airbnb, VRBO.
To, like, yeah, I get it. Because there's also the flip side of like, could anyone that lives there afford it?
Yeah.
Who are you taking
and like,
from?
Yeah, and like, it's just like, okay, so like I have a buddy who owns like 3 houses now. And like, we work together. He's not a landlord, it's like his full-time job. But like, I'm looking at the position he's putting himself in and I'm like, fuck. I could also be putting myself in a similar position. But like ethically, I don't know how to, when there's like, a literal housing crisis. I mean, we are in a very serious housing crisis right now where people who want homes cannot get homes. And so I don't know what to do. It's tough. I mean, the answer is no. You can't do it ethically. So.
Yeah, it's like, would you have been able to, with the mortgage that you would have been incurring, would you even have been able to set a monthly rent price to cover the cost that you would be incurring?
Mm-hmm.
That would be affordable for the person who wanted to rent it.
And that's why we didn't we didn't want to get a rental home with the idea of keeping a tenant. We wanted to do a vacation VRBO Airbnb situation because then we weren't trying to rely on it being rented out to pay our mortgage. It was going to be like, hey, if it gets rented out, that's great. But on weekends where it's not, like, that's a vacation home that we can then use for no additional cost. So that was kind of the idea. But even then, again, you keep coming back to like, but you're taking a house away from somebody who lives there, who's servicing that. Because even then, right? Oh, but if I didn't buy it, who could they even afford it? Okay, but if nobody buys it, guess what? The market has indicated the house is overpriced. The price goes down.
Yep.
That's how it works. So, so like, I'm not going to buy a second home, but like, it sucks. Because, like fucking 20 years ago, I mean, realistically, home ownership is the quickest way to build any sort of wealth that could be considered not generational, certainly, but like actually building and adding value to like your family. It's the quickest way to do that.
Yeah.
So it's tough. But yeah,
I get it.
the answer is no.
The answer is no.
All right.
Next, we have a
this?
Sardi question, which is about brewing coffee. Sardi linked us to this article about Japanese style iced coffee, which, simply put, it's just brewing your coffee over ice. So, like, in whatever vessel your coffee is dripping into, there's already ice there.
That's not.
And
That's not this. That's not. Wait. What?
yeah. So
that's not a
there's whole-
comparable thing, though. Cold brew and iced coffee are not the same thing.
Yes, that was one of my points before I saw that this was a question. Like, in the question channel, I fully responded to it in the Discord. One of the points that they make is how much better it is than cold brew, and all of their points against cold brew are just they're brewing cold brew poorly. Like, murky, dull, watery means that you're brewing your cold brew poorly.
Right.
That aside, this is my favorite way to have cold coffee. It's what I do at home.
That's how I make my espresso. I brew it right over ice.
Yeah, essentially. So, like,
Yeah.
but like in a drip world, it's you can tweak it in all sorts of different ways, but for like the very basic concept, you just half of the water in your ratio is ice. So, like, if you're doing a 1:16 and you're using 25 grams of coffee, and so you need to do 400 total grams of water, you're going to put like 150 grams of ice in your carafe and brew 250 grams of water over it, and it makes iced coffee.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it tastes better is because the coffee is immediately chilled. It doesn't have time to sit at any temperature because if you let coffee sit at room temperature, it develops, like, if you let it come down to room temperature over time, it develops really gross flavors because of the chemical breakdown that's happening. So if you immediately flash chill it, it is also referred to as flash brewed iced coffee. It is going to preserve the flavor better.
But also, I think you even tweeted about this today, and I talked about this like 2 weeks ago. Brewing your coffee with hot water and cold water is a vastly different experience.
An insanely different experience.
So like this is not comparable.
No. What cold brew can do for you is very different than what brewing your coffee hot and icing it
over ice, right? It's
so,
not even the same, right?
It's not the same. This article is based on
a lie.
Stupidity.
It's a fucking lie.
Because the problem is that they're not brewing cold brew well. I can brew cold brew well, and I still am not a fan because cold brew tends to lower the acidic profile of coffee, and I don't mean acidic like sour, but like the bright flavor notes tend to be dulled by cold brewing. And
which can be used in
part of coffee.
You see, exactly. Like, I've actually found that it also dulls the sweet overtones sometimes.
Yeah.
Which can be used tactfully because I don't like sweet coffee. So if I get a brew that's like too sweet, I'll use it as cold brew for that reason.
Yeah. I don't like it, but I can do it well, and this person can't. Like,
you're actually just doing a shitty job, just so we're clear
here. This article is based on the fact that this person doesn't know how to make cold brew. They're probably making it in a French press with no actual filter.
Yeah.
And
their grind is probably fucked. I've talked to multiple people who use way too fine of a grind. You need to use a super coarse grind. They're probably
steeping it for
24 hours.
Time.
Yep.
Like, it that somewhere in the 4 fundamentals of coffee they're fucking up.
Yep.
So, but Japanese style iced coffee, if you've been to Starbucks, you've had Japanese style iced coffee. If you've been to probably, honestly, almost any big chain, they're just brewing hot coffee, twice the amount of coffee, over ice.
Yeah. Yep.
they're not doing it as good as you could making a single cup at home, but you've had this before. It is my preferred way to make cold coffee, but it's all a preference, whether that's like you making essentially an iced Americano.
Yep.
Or making cold brew. Like, it's just personal preference. And whatever your preference is, it's learning how to do it well.
Yep. But understanding that those
Unlike
are not the
this
same thing is important.
Yeah.
So sorry, D, I don't think that answers your question. But really, what Alec is saying is throw that article out and find a better one.
I gave an actual recipe of how to do this.
Much better.
In the Discord. So, where I explained. And if you'd like a cold brew recipe, that can also be supplied.
So I think we only have like 2 more things to discuss that were much more lighthearted topics.
Yeah.
So we'll end with the fun one. But I just want to give a quick shout out to Lizzo. Because this,
I didn't even click on that.
This never happens. And I think that we should fucking celebrate this. I don't know if people have heard about this or not. Lizzo put out a song called Girls, which had a word that I didn't know was a word that's used derogatorily against people with disabilities. If you think about it for more than a second, of course it is. Like, of course, that's the root of the word. So she put out this song with this word, and then people let her know, hey, this is offensive. And rather than doubling down, she said, hey, it's been brought to my attention. There's a harmful word in my new song, Girls. Let me make one thing clear. I never want to promote derogatory language. As a fat black woman in America, I've had many hurtful words used against me. So I understand the power that words can have, whether intentionally or in my case, unintentionally. I'm proud to say there's a new version of Girls with a lyric change. This is the result of me listening and taking action. As an influential artist, I'm dedicated to being part of the change I've been waiting to see in the world. W. I love this.
Great. In the digital age, this is so easy to do.
It's so easy to do. She put out the song. People were like, hey, you shouldn't use this word. She re-released the song.
Yeah.
I think that's a big W, and I love to see shit like this. It's that simple.
Patch for her song.
She Cyberpunk 2077'd it. You know? I mean, like, it's so easy, and it's nice for her to be like, hey, as somebody who has been hurt by words before, yeah, I understand the importance of words. Let me not double down on this behavior.
Because there's all sorts of things that work their way into our vocabulary, and we don't know what they're originally based on.
Absolutely.
Like, it's taken me years to stop saying gypped.
Yep.
Because it's terrible.
I have to
when you actually think about it.
Yeah. I had a math teacher when I was like in middle school point that out. He was like, hey, that's a slur against gypsies, and I will not have that in my room. And I was like, oh, shit. Yes, it is, isn't it?
You're like, oh, that makes so much sense. I have no idea where that word came from.
Of course that's the etymology of that word.
But when you say it...
So many adults have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
A few weeks ago, I had that conversation with someone where I was like, hey, this is what that word's based on, and they're like, oh my god. I'm like, yeah, it's bad.
I had to DM a streamer while they were streaming, and I was like, hey, I don't think that's a word you want to use on stream because it's derogatory. And they were like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, thank you for fucking telling me. Which is an appropriate response. That's exactly what Lizzo did, right? Hey, I did not know. Thank you for telling me. Let me adjust accordingly. Being ignorant is a function of life. Doubling down on the ignorant behavior makes you a bigot. It's that simple. Yeah, so Mega Man and Thrill House apparently both are just now learning that. So there you go. That is a slur against gypsies. Take it out of your vocabulary.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yep. All right, let's get to some fun stuff here.
Okay. We're gonna rapid fire some of these, because some of these are gonna have like a pretty clear, and I feel like I'm gonna have way more opinion on most of them than you are.
Yeah, that's a fact. You're a nerd.
Superman versus Goku. Who is the better husband? This is very obvious. It's Superman. It's Superman.
I don't know. Goku loved Chi-Chi's cooking so much.
Goku is the villain of Dragon Ball Z, and
Well,
I
that's-
could spend 30 minutes explaining that.
That's not fair. That's not fair. He's a villain, but he's not the villain.
He is the villain of Dragon
I
Ball
don't
Z.
know. Look,
Anything
who
bad that
amongst
happened
us
could have been avoided earlier if Goku just acted.
Whom amongst us hasn't tried to kill their son? Okay, all right, okay, all right then. I don't know who either of these people are.
It's Superman. Okay, so the next one, Black Canary versus Dazzler, who is better at karaoke.
I'm going Dazzler.
You're going Dazzler?
Yeah.
I too would go Dazzler.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. That's the right call.
Hawkeye versus Green Arrow, who is the better baker?
Better baker. All right, Alec.
Do you have an opinion before I spend too long?
Oof. No.
Okay.
I wish I did.
I think overall, Ollie, the Green Arrow, is better. Because I think Ollie probably follows instructions better. But I think...
That's an important step of baking.
But I think that Clint has one thing that he makes really well that is better than anything Ollie could ever make.
So, like, he's got his one trick that's like, yo, I nailed these fucking parfaits, though.
I think Clint has one dessert that he makes when he's very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
That is, like, just super easy that he somehow makes magically.
Flan. It's flan. It's got the perfect, and it cracks just right. It's perfect. No, it's a croquembouche or whatever the fuck. It's one of them.
A croquembouche is like 8 desserts in one dessert.
Yeah, exactly. He fucking kills it. That's what it is. Oh, cringe. Neither. Quicksilver versus the Flash, who's better at braiding hair? I mean, I don't know, man. I'd say the Flash just because he'd get through it real fast, but like speed doesn't equal quality.
They're both speedsters, though.
Speed doesn't equal quality.
They're both speedsters.
Oh, that's true. Quicksilver. I didn't recognize that.
Quicksilver has a daughter.
So more practiced?
Let's just hope it's Quicksilver.
That's hilarious.
Who is the better business person? Batman or Emma Frost, the White Queen? It's Emma. And if you say it's Batman, you've never read a comic book.
Okay. Supergirl versus Firestarter, who is better at dressage?
What
is dressage?
I didn't read this one.
It's a word. Like... It's a word.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's related to being an equestrian.
Oh, you know what? It probably is because they both have notorious horses.
Is it? Oh, am I right?
Yeah.
The art of riding and training a horse. Let's go!
Supergirl had a horse that was also her boyfriend.
What? What? Hold on. What? Nope. Back it up. Back up.
Not while he was a horse. Not while he was a horse.
Reincarnated as a horse.
No, I think he just got stuck as a horse. I don't remember.
This is gross.
And then Firestar notoriously had a horse that Emma Frost from the last one blew up.
Cringe. That's
to try and turn her into a psycho killer.
That's fucked up.
Its name was Butter Rum. And I'm still gonna go with Supergirl because fucked one.
I don't know, man. These are getting obscure.
They are, but you're on the Lois Lane one, okay?
Lois Lane versus Mary Jane. Who can do the most push-ups?
Lois Lane.
Lois Lane. Yeah, Lois Lane.
Not only because her father is a general, but because Lois Lane could kick most of these people's asses.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Lois Lane. Let's do this. Let's do this as the last one. Steel versus Iron Man. Who can build a better alarm clock?
Steel would build just an alarm clock, and Tony Stark would try to make an alarm clock that
was also a
end
gun.
world hunger.
Yeah.
Or something.
No, it would be a gun.
No, it would try and end world hunger and end up being a gun.
A gun. Exactly. He'd be like, no, because this is great.
That's how it works.
It actually harnesses the power of the sun and creates food out of just the atoms in the air. But actually the food is bullets and it shoots people. So
Yeah.
sorry.
That's Tony Stark.
Yeah. So that's another episode of Beanscast.
I had to. We haven't done something like that overtly nerdy yet. I had to get it.
No, it's true. I don't mind that. I mean, we don't, we didn't really have much of a direction when we created the podcast. We kind of wanted to do, nerd shit that then we kind of didn't follow through on per se because the world sucks so hard.
We just kind of fell into screaming about America for 2 hours. Once a week.
Because fuck America, though, first and foremost. So there's that.
there is that aspect of it.
Alec, why don't you hit us with the outro so we can do the ending screen?
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. To stay up to date on all things Beanscast, you can follow us on Twitter at BeanscastPod and join the Discord at tinyurl.com/Beanscast. Archive of the live show usually goes up on Mondays. Might be Tuesdays. Just depends how the internet and Trev's life want to affect that. And then you can get to that YouTube channel by going to tinyurl.com/BeanscastVod. We will see you next week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks.